Hey everyone, what's going on? Welcome back to another episode of my Manchester United career on FIFA 14. And today, I'm feeling excited. Do you want to know why? I'm sure you know why I'm feeling excited. Because Ander Herrera and Luke Shaw are now Manchester United players. We will be seeing them in action come the new season and many seasons after that. It was brilliant last week. In the matter of 2 days, we had such a flurry of transfer activity, and I think it's been reported now that Van Gaal is looking to sign at least another 6 or maybe even 7 players. It's such an amazing and exciting time to be a Manchester United fan at the moment. I saw an image on Twitter the other day. For you guys that do follow me, you probably even saw it yourselves. I did retweet it. It was of Gandalf. He was holding his staff, and above it said, "So it begins. United are rebuilding their army." That was just so awesome. It made me feel proud to be a Manchester United fan, and I just can't wait for the season to start. I'm sure the majority of you guys can't either. You know, it's going to be a roller coaster. It's going to be thrilling. It's going to be one of those rides where you think, I don't want this to stop. This is amazing. I just know it. So anyway, yesterday Holland played Mexico in the World Cup. They just about beat them. Kind of felt sorry for Mexico. But the point I'm getting to is, even though I've kind of got a soft spot for Holland and I want to see them do pretty well in the World Cup, I was thinking to myself, you know, maybe it wouldn't hurt Holland going out of the World Cup at this stage, because that would mean Van Gaal would switch to his position as Manchester United manager, and then he'd be able to get down to business, to real business, instead of focusing on Holland. Obviously, he would be entitled to maybe 2-3 weeks off, but at least we would know that Van Gaal is in charge of Manchester United. He can take over. We would see those promotional pictures of him standing at the dugout at Old Trafford with the United top, and that's something else I can't wait to see before the season gets going. But anyway, you guys have been asking me recently, what do you think about Herrera? Is it a good signing? I think it is, you know. Herrera's 24 now, maybe pushing on for 25. I'm not sure about his date of birth. But it's known that Van Gaal is great with youngsters, and I'm sure he's going to get the best out of Herrera. I'm sure he's going to be giving him those chances that he needs to develop and become a much better, maturer player. He is one of the brightest young prospects of Spain. He's got great energy, great creativity. It's the perfect signing. He's a midfielder, which is a position that definitely needs strengthening for United. And you know, you've got that link as well, because he's Spanish with Mata and Deja. So I can see Herrera settling in just nicely at Old Trafford within maybe the first or even the second month. I have that belief that, you know, I'm just getting goosebumps thinking about it. I can't wait to actually see him in action. I know that kind of sounds a bit weird, but I'm so excited to see Herrera on the pitch at Old Trafford. I've seen him in action for Bilbao whenever they've been playing on Sky Sports in the past, and he's been playing, and he seems like a player that would suit Man United down to the ground. I'm glad that we managed to get our man in the end, because obviously, as we all heard last season when David Moyes was in charge, you know, we had those 3 lawyers go over to Spain, and it turned out to be just normal civilians that they didn't know what they were doing or something like that. I can't quite remember the whole story. It was something along those lines, and it was ridiculous, and we never did get Herrera, obviously. But now we've got our man. Wood managed to pull that one out the bag. Fair play to him. And then there's Luke Shaw. Not much really needs to be said about Luke Shaw. Fantastic talent at such a young age. And he costs United between 29 to 31 million. I think the initial deal is for 31 million, but we actually pay 29. So there's like add-on clauses, maybe monthly installments leading up to that 31 mil. But I've got to agree with Paul Scholes, you know, to be spending 30 plus million on a left back, it just shows how silly the game has gone. And for that type of money, I want a centre forwards that's going to be scoring 30 plus goals in a season. But I suppose, on the other hand, when you look at the signing of Rio, I know the times were different back in 2002. Not many teams were spending big like they are today, but we spent just under 30 mil on Rio. He was the most expensive defender at the time. But look at how many years we got out of him. The amount of performances that he put in. He was at one point one of the best defenders in the world. For some reason, people tend to overlook that. I'm not sure why. They just see Rio as he is today, you know, at the age of 35, 36, and not at his best. You know, he's well past his peak now. We all know that, and that happens in football with age. But I'm confident Luke Shaw will stay at Manchester United for many years, and he'll be just as successful as Rio was. I have that confidence. You know, you saw Luke Shaw last season. He broke out in the Southampton team. Brilliant. You know, I watched him a couple of times, not as much as I would have liked to, but the times that I did watch Southampton when they were on the TV and Shaw was playing, you know, I just thought, are we really linked with this guy? Because that'd be amazing if we can sign Luke Shaw up, you know, to Old Trafford, bring him to Manchester. Let's see what he can do, working alongside Januzaj, another youngster, working up and down that left wing. And you know, that reminds me, as we all know, just not so long back now, Patrice Evra signed a one-year contract. It's going to be very interesting to see how Evra will perform this season coming. He will be battling for that first team spot with Luke Shaw. So before Evra retires, whenever that may be, who knows, maybe it could be at the end of this season coming or the season after. But will Evra go out with a bang, or will he fade away like Rio did? I know that sounds harsh, but I suppose you've got David Moyes to blame for that, because Moyes, he didn't start Rio that much last season. I don't think Rio even reached double figures for the amount of games started, which is a shame. And I think that's why when Rio did start last season, he kind of looked as though he was slipping off, and that was just it. That was the end of his career pretty much at United. So, but Evra, you know, he's very consistent with his performances. I don't think he's ever really had a bad game. He always puts in 110%. His work rate is fantastic. Did Evra start that game last season against Olympiacos, where we played them away in the Champions League? I don't think he did. But for me, that was the worst performance I've ever seen United put in, ever. I think it was actually Buttner that started as a left-back instead of Evra. So I was about to say, if Evra has put in a poor performance, it was in that game. But I don't think he did start that game. I think it was Buttner. And speaking of Buttner, if you don't know, he has left Man United now. He's gone to Dynamo Moscow for a deal worth 4.4 million. Buttner was certainly a player I wanted to see do well at Man United. I think he would have done well if Sir Alex had decided to not retire for a couple of years. I mean, Buttner's 25 now. I think Fergie would have got the best out of him, and I think maybe Van Gaal may have got the best out of him if Buttner has stayed. But obviously we've just got to move on, haven't we? And I don't think there would have been a spot in the first team for him either, especially with Luke Shaw joining Manchester United. So anyway, we're getting close to the end of this episode. Hopefully with this week coming, we get some more transfer activity, especially if Van Gaal wants to sign 6 or 7 more players. And now that Chile are out of the World Cup, maybe we can get some news on Vidal making his move to England to play at Old Trafford. Fingers crossed. And Hummels is a player I'd love to see at United, but I don't think it's going to happen because he's recently signed a new contract at Dortmund until 2017. So unless United are prepared to pay the release clause, which is something outrageous like 50, 60, 70 million, maybe even more, it's out the window. I'd love to see Janmaat. I think he would be a good player to bring in, you know, maybe as backup to Rafael. But I think a player like Janmaat would be expecting first team all the time. But then again, Van Gaal, I'm sure he can find a spot for Janmaat if he does bring him in. The defence needs working over as much as the midfields. I think maybe going after Mangala would be a wise choice. I know De Vries as well, who is currently working alongside Van Gaal in Brazil at the moment in the Dutch squad. There's just so many Dutch players that are linked with United at the moment that could possibly be coming with Van Gaal once the World Cup is over, according to some of these newspapers. They make up such crazy speculation, they really do. But Blind is one of them, central midfielder. Slight spoiler, I actually make a bid for him in this Man United career that you're watching right now. You'll see it in a bit. So I think they need to set their sights on rebuilding that defence first for United. It needs to be done. There are holes there now that Rio and Vidic have left. It needs to be done. It needs to be worked over, and I'm sure it will with the coming weeks. certainly something to look forward to. Anyways, you guys have been watching with this career mode with Manchester United. We managed to overturn that deficit against Chelsea in the Capital One Cup. We are now through to the final. It went down to penalties in the end, and it would have to be the one, James Wilson, that got that winning penalty. Here is that offer I put in for Daley Blind from Ajax for 4 million. Keeping in mind, I only had about just under 5 million to spend in January. I don't want to be going too overboard with top signings. I will be looking to maybe bringing in Herrera and Luke Shaw in the summer, and maybe Vidal again at Old Trafford. But for the time being, I just went with Blind because I thought, you know, he's 23, overall 77. I just wanted to add a little bit of stability to that central defensive midfield position. You've got Carrick and Fellaini that work there. So I think bringing in Blind, it adds to that stability. You've got people like Daniel Sturridge, maybe making his move to PSG. Ochoa there could be joining Swansea City. Remy as well could be on the leave from Newcastle, and my offer was accepted by Ajax. I was surprised because they were looking for 8 million, 7 million for him, and I managed to bring that down, save a bit of money. And there we have it. There is the confirmation that Daley Blind is now a Manchester United player for the rest of this season. Anyway guys, that is the end of this episode, unfortunately. I do hope that you've all enjoyed, and I hope to see you all back here very soon for the next one. Thanks for watching.